coming to help us! Well, that is extremely ominous.
Oh, Sith.
I guess in this galaxy you can have more than 2 Sith at a time. That's cool and terrifying.
This is wild! Darth Rose Tico, Darth Nubs, Darth Kid Fisto, Darth Hammerhead. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
These are going to hurt you, sir.
Darth Jar Jar?
Welcome, Masters and Padawans, to episode 557 of Full of Sith. It's me, Brian Young, with you to bring you a very special episode. This week, I had a chance to sit in on some roundtable interviews with cast and creators of LEGO Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. So we're going to hear from a number of fellow podcasters and folks in the Star Wars podcast and YouTube space, as well as myself asking questions of folks like Gaten Matarazzo and Tony Revolori, who played Sig and Dev Griebling in LEGO Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, and then Bobby Moynihan, who played Jedi Bob in Rebuild the Galaxy, and then from writers and executive producers Dan Hernandez and Benji Samit, who are responsible for some really great movies in addition to this. And they had some really great, sharp things to say, and it was just a lot of fun all around. And if you haven't watched the show, I would recommend watching it, although there's not necessarily spoilers through these interviews. It'll definitely make you want to watch the show, but it's only 4 episodes. They're all streaming now on Disney+. It's a really fun look at the Star Wars universe, sort of deconstructing it LEGO style and rebuilding it in a different way, in a way that's really funny. I was really surprised at some of the choices that got made. I was really nervous and skeptical about how they might handle some things like Darth Jar Jar. But I was really satisfied with how they did that, and how they even commented on how ridiculous that was. And there's definitely one choice that was made that I think everyone listening to this show is going to know that Holly will have squealed in delight for. And I can't wait to talk to Holly about it when she comes back on the show. So without further ado, we'll kick off the interviews starting with Gaten and Tony. Then we'll move over to Bobby, and then we'll move over to Dan and Benji.
Hi, this is Art Eddie from Art of Fatherhood. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us, guys. Big fan. I saw the first 4 episodes. Love the vibes you guys are putting together as brothers and all that. Talk about how you both prepared for this role, and did you guys kind of work together about having that brother dynamic? Tony, you can go first, and you can follow up, man.
Sure. Yeah, as an older brother myself to a younger brother in general and in real life, I think that's kind of the vibe you set. Great directions from Chris, Dan, and Benji. Very, very unfortunately, I did not get to work in the actual room with Gaten, and nor did I had any time to plan this. But I like to think that we are talented enough that we convinced the world that we were in the same room. Mostly him. He did the heavy lifting. But I just kind of went in there and you, at least in animation, in my experience, you kind of trust the team who is building the macro view of it all, and you go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a lot of that, like that dynamic building was on the shoulders of the creatives. Like Christian and Benji really did help both of us out, and because we both live separate coasts, and we actually didn't really get to interact. This is actually our first time getting to talk in context of this project together.
Yeah.
Is with you guys, so this is really fun. So we're gonna be
Thank
learning.
you
some
guys very
stuff
much.
about- yeah, we're gonna be learning some stuff about our individual process while we talk with you guys, which is really great. Yeah, it's such a cool dynamic. I also am. I'm in the mid. I'm an older brother and a younger brother. I'm right in the middle, so I feel like
Oh,
that's
wow.
a fun dynamic to try to explore. Yeah, my brother's younger, but we're so close that we're basically twins. But we both have an older sister who feels like an older sister. But
Yeah.
so, yeah, I definitely know what that feeling is like, and I think they wrote it really wonderfully. I think they counteract each other very well and continue to do so throughout the process of the show. And you guys have actually seen more than we have. I think I'm gonna admit it. You guys are way more. You've seen way more of the show than we have. This is bananas to hear you guys talk about it too. I'm excited to see it.
Well, thank you guys. You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next question is for Charlotte and Caitlin.
Hi, this is Caitlin from Sky Talkers. So great to talk to you both today. I can't believe we've seen more than you. It's so great.
Thanks.
But my question was, you're both not strangers to voice acting, but were there any challenges you faced when coming into the world of Lego Star Wars animation?
Not doing the lightsaber noises. It's damn near impossible. I get it. It's like
It's hard. I
Real
remember them telling me asking. I thought it would be funny because Sig is like a Star Wars fan in the realm of Star Wars. That I think that it would be very realistic for Sig to make the noises as he held the lightsaber. I was like, can I do a few takes where I go, whoa, 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 like, can I please? And they're like, yeah, go for it. I don't know if it made the cut, but I really do hope it did because
I
honestly,
really hope
it
the
made
cut.
it easier on me because like Sig is just a Star Wars fan in Star Wars, so I got to do the dumbest things in the world and just quote the movies and do the dumbest stuff ever, and it was rad.
All right, next question is for Keith and Kerwin.
Hi, this is Keith Kerwin of Father Son Gavin.
Hey.
Hey guys.
Wow.
Hello.
I loved your performances as Sig and Dev. Did you guys get to choose who would play who, or did the producers already have this in mind?
I think
we
the
passed well before. That would be so crazy though.
I would love it if we got to choose. That'd be the dream. If getting
That would be dope.
Although I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see Gaten as Darth Devastator.
You would too. I don't know if like my voice compliments for a Sith Lord. I feel like
I don't think mine does either. Right. We'll see. We'll see when we watch the show for
maybe
the
we'll
first time.
just do like an alternate season. We'll go in and record and just switch parts and see what.
Oh, that would be great. I did have one friend of mine who watched the trailer recently go, "Wow, you talked about the whole thing," and I go, "That's Gaten, not me." What are you talking about? You even know what I sound like?
That's dope.
Dude, there's someone out there who thinks we could switch roles.
Honestly, I feel like there could be a lot of overlap. I think it could work.
But no, to answer your question, unfortunately, we did not get to choose our parts, but they were bestowed upon us.
Which is nice of them.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next question is for Brian.
Hey, this is Brian with Full of Sith. I just want to say it's great to see you all in Lucasfilm work. Tony, you were terrific in Willow. I want to ask, Lego Star Wars is a little bit on the silly side of Star Wars, but you both bring an earnestness to your parts, and I'm wondering how the both of you worked on balancing that earnestness with the silliness in the room with your voices, because it definitely comes through where it's silly where it needs to be for the both of you, but also, it brings emotion. There's actually moments where it's like, I mean, excuse the pun, like devastating.
Great pun. I think the most important balance, this is easy to get, I think, a little bit more in voiceover and stuff. I think what makes things funny is when the people making the jokes don't know they're making jokes. Is when I think if people are too hyper aware of the fact that they're trying to be funny, it ends up just falling flat. So I think what makes this show specifically really goofy and silly and fun and relatable is that, especially with Tony, especially with Sig and everybody involved, like the character Sig and everybody involved, it's really high stakes for these characters. And even though, like, in context of like Star Wars fans, they can watch and be like, great, we're having fun watching Darth Jar Jar be on TV for the first time, which is insane as a concept. But it means that like these characters are consistently going through really scary stuff and like like things that people can relate to, like getting older with your sibling, and one of them like it has the vibe of like an older brother getting ready to like leave for college, and like the younger one not really knowing how to like deal with that shift. And that's kind of what makes things more fun to watch, is when you can relate to them personally as well as just observing a really goofy fun time.
Yeah. I think also the benefit of what we had was Dan and Benji's incredible writing. It's not silly for silly sake. I know I came in with a little bit less jokes than everyone else, and I was dying laughing reading the scripts, but knowing that to these people, to these characters, this is their real life. This is what is happening no matter what, as fun and as silly as it is for us to see. This is everything in their lives. So you want to give it as much passion and as much love and attention as certainly the writers did, but also potentially the characters who are living it, going through. And so I will say I had the massive benefit of having these incredible lines that, I could add the earnestness to.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brian.
All right, next question is for Dan.
Gentlemen, pleasure to chat with you both. I think one of my favorite things about this whole dynamic of the story is that, as Brian alluded to, there's some fun elements, but this is actually a pretty serious story with a lot of gravitas. Not only is it about brothers and relationships, but it's about kind of destiny versus free will. And I was interested in knowing what you both thought about the themes inherent in this story.
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Do you want to take that, Tony, first?
Yeah, sure. It's Lego Star Wars, but it's still Star Wars, and I think that's kind of the wheelhouse that it always kind of lays in, right? From the prequels to the original trilogy to everything we've seen up till now. These themes are always present and always there, and I think what, again, I'll keep mentioning them over and over again, but Dan and Benji have done wonderfully well, is they've kind of aged with their audience as adults, and bringing all of that with them without having to dumb it down or anything like that, which I think is really, really smart. And I absolutely love things that, and projects and stories that really kind of push the envelope of what, kids can enjoy.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's so cool about this is that Star Wars is a story that's like fully rooted in destiny. Like the entire crux of these 9 movies is a prophecy. Is a prophecy of like, this is set in stone, this will happen. It's just a matter of like those things falling into place and letting them be so. But I think what's so great about this one is that it completely flips it on its head, and that like that what everything we know about the world that we love and have grown to know all the lore about is completely flipped and shuffled and rearranged. And so that gives you an opportunity to kind of make a story that is kind of about free will in a world that usually isn't. And I think that inherently is a more compelling thing. Like when you can have these characters that like it truly is up to them how this is going to go. There is nothing set in stone. It raises stakes. It makes it more exciting to watch, especially in context of family and these 2 boys going in completely different directions for the duration of what we've seen so far. And I think it just makes it exciting. It makes it fun. Also leaves room for just us to have, it leaves room for like Star Wars fans to just make a show for Star Wars fans. And like the fact that Lucasfilm was like on board with us like poking fun at a bunch of like the Star Wars world and like referencing like the expanded universe and like Reddit forum stuff, like from like way beyond out there. Like the fact that we've even gotten to do that at all, like is just completely shifts this around. And so I think it's certainly the most bizarre Star Wars project that I think has come out in a while, and that makes it really fun to be a part.
Next question is for Gustavo.
Hi guys, Gustavo from Trial of the Force. Before anything, I have to say thank you for taking the time to chat with us. And Tony, so happy to have another Latino in Star Wars. It's great to welcome you into the family. It's amazing to have more representation in the universe. This question is for both of you. Your backgrounds have been like obviously getting with Stranger Things in a franchise that has to do with a lot of love for pop culture and love for lore, as you were talking about before, and then you, Tony, being part of like Spider-Man, more specifically with Lucasfilm with Willow. Like, how did both of those experiences, sharing part of those universes, kind of prepared you or gave you any insight into how to approach your characters here in Lego Star Wars?
I think I wasn't scared. Unless you want to go first.
No, I agree. I was just me like being excited by that answer.
Yeah, it's yeah. I wasn't scared to jump on board. And I feel like sometimes fear can push creativity or either stifle it the way you use it. But, you know, being a part of, as you said, both Willow and Spider-Man and other things as well, you kind of just come into it having fun. And you know, there's nothing to lose here, which is really, really an interesting place to be. Because I do remember, you know, being scared joining the MCU and you know, reviving Willow with Lucasfilm. So it was really, really just getting to have fun and do this for the love of it. And now that it's out, or, well, not out, but you know, you guys have seen it and everything, and people are starting to love it and everything. It just makes me happy because I had one of the best times working on this project. And so I think beyond that, I'm just enjoying every moment of it.
Right.
You know, whether it be people having fun with the Lego aspect of things, or the Darth Jar Jar or whatever it might be. I'm getting to enjoy it with people. And I think that's the biggest thing I took from the other projects and was able to kind of bring here. And, you know, I will say it helps.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like there's always, when it comes to franchise work, there's always going to be a level of pressure around it because the whole point of franchise work is that it's loved by so many people. And Tony, you've already worked on like so much stuff that has all that pressure attached to it. And all the stuff you've done with it has always been very, very successful and very good, which is like really cool to see. Like that's awesome because it's hard to do in the context of a franchise. So anytime you're touching something that is as loved as Star Wars is, by myself included, there's always a level of pressure there. But the minute you read a script like this, and the minute you work in a room that you do with Christian and Benji, you understand that like the stakes here in context of this are so low because it's just fun. We're just here to like, it's the first Star Wars, like, and that's the thing is that like historically recently, like Star Wars fans are really hard to please, and like myself included. Like a lot of times people, they hold these stories really close to their heart, and so when you have something that's just fresh and loose and low stakes and just made by people who want to goof around for people who want to goof around in context of these stories, it takes so much pressure off. So it's just the love, and to see it all come together is like really, really great. I think it's exactly what specifically this franchise needs right now, is to just like take the pressure of things like, and I think it's so fun that it like makes a spin on a multiverse concept, which has been used quite a lot and has been frustrating to some people and has been like a lot of times used as like for like plot convenience, where you can take something that is really hard to manage and just go fully down the rabbit hole with it and poke fun at it and like find new explorative ways to like create with it is really fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Next question is for Victor.
I want to thank you very much for your time today. I'm Vic Aragon from Fan Dads. My question for you two is, I mean, the series, we see a lot of alternate versions of characters and vehicles because it is called Rebuild the Galaxy. So
Yeah.
if you two had your choice of picking any vehicle from the Star Wars galaxy to remix and rebuild yourselves, what vehicle would you two pick?
This is a good question.
Vehicle.
I think
Oh,
I have a good idea of what I might want to do.
yeah.
So, like, of course, a part of me wants to like fly the Millennium Falcon, but it's not practical in the sense, like, for some reason, I'm thinking about my life here on Earth. What would be the most practical vehicle in Star Wars history to have? And I think it would be um, one of the Jedi shuttles, like the tiny, like single cockpit, single flight, like little ships that the Jedi used and fly around the galaxy, and like the ones that Obi-Wan and Anakin use in the Battle of Coruscant in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. One of those, because like they're super zippy and super fun, and you can find easy parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mine.
I think I would have gone like a speeder.
Yeah.
Just the idea of going like real fast. And also like, it floats, I can go over the water, which I think would be
that's
really,
good.
really cool.
That's better.
But you know what? For the idea of like, I don't want to copy your answer, but now I want a spaceship.
I'm saying I've thought about this.
It's you have
convenient.
Now I'm like, LA traffic is crap, so I want to.
Yeah.
But if I could fly, there's no traffic.
You're just right over it.
Oh, I'm sticking with the speeder, but
Good.
just know in my heart, I want to steal this vehicle.
Yeah, good.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Hi, Bobby. It's James from Jedi News here.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, doing well. I like your spaceship. Is that the hotel? That is, right?
It was. Yes, it was. It was. So we just can't get rid of you, but that's a good thing.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it's a really, really positive thing. We've had you obviously in Resistance, then the Bad Batch, Visions, and now Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So did you know coming into this particular series how iconic Jedi Bob is in the world of Lego Star Wars? And did that have any impact on the voice that you chose for the character?
It did, definitely. I did. This was in the room when I got the phone call.
Awesome.
When I got the phone call, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I had worked with Dan and Benji a little bit beforehand, so I knew them, and I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So much so that I forgot the second part of your question.
Well, it's just so it was. Did you have any idea how iconic Jedi Bob was?
Yes. And the voice. Yeah, yes. It definitely did. I think I tried to do what I would do as a Jedi. Like, I just did what I thought being cast as a Jedi, which is like, I'm going to try and sound like Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon, but the reality is I'm a mess. And I just, and kind of then threw in a lot of Bobby in there.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Alex, your question.
Hi, Bobby. Alex from Star Wars Explained.
Hi, I like trying to guess who's going to be who.
As James pointed out, this is far from your first Star Wars character. So when the galaxy gets remixed, what do you think happened to Orca or Cecil Slack or Geezer or all of them? Could we get like an all Bobby Moynihan episode eventually?
Like a Clumps, like a Nutty Professor style movie. Yes, I hope that is the dream. I think that's Lucasfilm's #1 priority. I love this idea. I think it could happen. And also the Lego Star Wars universe is the place to do it. I wish now that I had asked them just to put all my characters like talking at a little table in the cantina or the marina or something. That would have been great.
Awesome. Art, your question?
Hey, Bobby, Art Eddie here for Art of Fatherhood. I had a chance to speak with you about fatherhood before, so I'm going to ask you another fatherhood question. A lot of great themes in Rebuild the Galaxy. And is there something that, you kind of use as Jedi Bob's character that you might use in real life as a dad in terms of maybe guiding or helping out the main characters?
Oh God, this is going to get too real. It's something that I really do. it's something that Jedi Bob does, which is like he talks to people like they're stupid and they can't understand that they've done this, how they could have been so insane to do this thing. And I realize that I do that all the time, and I can't do that to my children. I try to be very kind to them. They're like, Dad, I did this insane thing. And I'm just like, it happens. I did those things too. And I have to remind myself not to go full Danny Glover and be like, I am getting too old for this. I'm done.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man. I love your room.
Sky Talkers, your question.
Hi, Bobby. It's Charlotte from Sky Talkers. I was so great to talk with you today. Thank you so much. We were wondering, you're such a Star Wars fan, and it is so awesome to see you in all these different roles. What draws you to Star Wars thematically, and what keeps you coming back?
I think for me personally, I love a universe to get lost in that has a great deal of minutia. I like, it's a wonderful place to escape into with a lot of very easy archetypes to understand, and it's fun. And I also love the idea of that fan community of like, there's this thing that doesn't exist that we all care about a great deal and will fight you over. There's something to that. There's something to the love and the importance that is put into a galaxy that doesn't exist, that I enjoy. It's also a little crazy, probably too.
Keith and Kerwin, you guys are up.
Hi, this is Kerwin and Keith of Boston Galaxy. How are you, Bobby?
What's up? How are you?
All right, good. How would you describe your character, Jedi Bob?
Jedi Bob is not the best Jedi. He doesn't necessarily need to be. He's terrible at lightsaber work, and he's well aware of it. He knows he needs to get better. He just wants to save the galaxy and do good. But I also think he's there. There's a little part of him that doesn't believe in himself enough when it should, and I think he learns that through the other characters here.
Brian,
you're a good dad, by the way. You look like a good dad.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
He's a great dad.
Oh, see, that's the best. That's the best.
Awesome. Brian, go ahead.
Okay, this is Brian from Full of Sith.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I told you on Twitter earlier, I think it's about time we see you in live action.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I'm truly just glad you enjoyed it. You seem like a fan, and your tweet perfectly encapsulated what I would love people to feel about this experience, including me being in live action Star Wars.
I wanted to ask, I think I feel like I interviewed you at a roundtable like this for Resistance way back when you were just starting into Star Wars, and you were a huge fan then.
I remember that day. I remember I was so excited.
And you're doing Star Wars still. You've done like Alex said, you've done Cecil Slack and Geezer and Orca, and like I said, you were a big Star Wars fan leading up to all of that. How has your relationship to Star Wars changed now after all these years of being a part of it? Before last time we talked, you were just stepping into it, but now you're a veteran now.
Yeah, it's good. I feel very good. I feel very thankful. I feel a lot of gratitude. I can't believe that I have had some nights. Like, there was a night recently where I stayed up with my kids and built my Lego Jedi Starfighter. And that's something I will never, ever, ever forget. Or I called Dan and Benji, and told them, like, thank you. You made me a Jedi, and I don't know how to explain this to you, that how much this means to me. And it's great. I had this in my room when I got the call. This was like that I was doing it. Like, I had this. Like, I can't believe it. I definitely spent way too much money on Legos already, and it's an honor. I can't believe it.
Dan, your question.
Bobby, Dan Zaire from Coffee with Kenobi.
Hello.
Good to see you, man. My son knew I was going to talk to you today, and he said Jedi Bob is the most famous non-Star Wars Star Wars character ever. So how about that for a legacy?
I agree, and that's the best. Yeah, there's no better part to get in Star Wars. I don't think. That's a lie. I want to play Jabba or something like that one day.
Well, the performance was great, and you're a blast. Appreciate
Thank you so much. It was the best. I had a little bit of fun doing it.
Gustavo, your question.
Hi, Bobby. Gustavo from Trial of the Force. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Everyone has been mentioning like your appearances in Bad Batch and Resistance, but I feel everyone has forgotten about the live stage readings of the Naboo movie and the Camino Caper, which
Thank you
I
for
think
bringing it up. Very
are
important.
probably as iconic as they are infamous.
It's the only place where I get cast as Darth Maul, Jango Fett, yeah, and the third one's coming, and there might be a certain villain in my.
I'm sure, yeah, and I'm sure Sam
I'd be
Witwer
building a
and
costume.
Ray
Yeah, I might be
are
building
jealous.
a costume involving a lot of pool noodles as we speak.
The expectations are high now. And I guess that now my question has to do with obviously Jedi Bob. And one of the things that I think is overlooked is that because it's Lego, everyone's just like, oh, this is a very lighthearted adventure and all the characters are fun and quirky. But after watching Rebuild the Galaxy, Jedi Bob is a tortured character. He went through so much trauma of losing his world and trying to save this other one. And he also lost it and then trying to get sick to, save the galaxy. So how do you balance a character that has suffered severe trauma, but then make it lighthearted and fun?
I mean, I hate to say this, but that's a lot of people in life, right? There's a lot of people with stuff going on, and they're just trying to make it through their day. You don't have to be a Jedi to do that. That's everybody. That being said, I think I took it seriously. I took Jedi like that. Like I would go as far as saying like just one of the best acting roles I've ever gotten in my life. Like, and it sounds silly because it's a Lego Star Wars thing, but it's not. I had a lot of heavy lifting to do in that thing, literally, and it was fun to get to play a little serious, but also play goofy and make fun of Star Wars with Mark Hamill.
Thank you,
Victor. Your question.
Hi, Bobby. Victor from FanDads. You've kind of alluded to this a couple times already with the Jedi Bob figure, but you're part of one of like the funniest Saturday Night Live skits making fun of Star Wars collectors.
So now that stuff was from my house downstairs.
So now that you're gonna have like, since you even said it, you have the official Jedi Bob Starfighter. How does it feel to have that Lego figure? And are you gonna put it in a case so no one can touch it after this?
My daughter is home. One of my daughters is home, so I am here in front of a whiteboard. But otherwise, I would have been in my office downstairs. And I'm kind of glad because I'm a little embarrassed. I have at least 50 or 60 Jedi Bob sets in my office downstairs, just ready to give out to anybody who wants them. I may have a bunch of different Jedi Bobs. I may have an Imperial Jedi Bob. I may have made a Christmas Jedi Bob. I may have made an X-Wing Jedi Bob. I have a lot of Jedi Bobs. I have a great deal. Are those hot toys behind you, by the way?
Yes, they are. These are my Spider-Man.
Yeah. Call me later.
I'll tweet you.
We'll show off rooms.
James, back to you.
Brilliant. So what was it like working with, you mentioned Mark Hamill, and obviously he must be, somebody that you feel for in the same way that we all do, because we've grown up with the guy and he's part of our lives. So how was that for you?
It's not lost on me. I got to meet him a long time ago at a Star Wars event, and he was so kind, and I was taken aback. I've gotten to meet a lot of famous people through SNL and stuff like that, but he is someone who truly understands the gravity of of who he is. He is Luke Skywalker, and I don't think it bothers him like other people. Like he is Luke, and he acts like it a little bit, and I love it. I love him, but in this in particular, I can't believe, as a Star Wars fan and as a comedian, that I got to be in the Star Wars project where they let Mark Hamill just be great, where they just let him be funny, and I think a lot of his stuff is improvised. Like it's great. he makes this thing for me. And forever, for the rest of time, whenever I have 2 minutes where I don't have anything to do, I'm just going to go watch that cantina scene with me and Mark Hamill. That's what I will do for the rest of time.
Not a bad thing to have.
Yeah, not a bad thing at all.
Alex, your question.
Talking about the fun of collecting Star Wars, and Lego Star Wars is 25 years old this year. So what are your memories of Lego Star Wars back in that simpler time that the flashback alludes to? Do you have a favorite set or minifigure?
I mean, like the Jedi Bob, when I have it, and like I can't believe it. It's so funny that just like this thing is now turned into this thing. But I also recently, one of my favorite Lego sets is the one where they turn, or Darth Vader in the like on the gurney, like the most horrible moment of his entire existence. Like there's a Lego set for it, and then it always I feel bad a little bit for Darth Vader that Lego set exists. I think it's rude for him. It's like if somebody put your worst moment in a Lego set, I assume wouldn't be as fun. Actually, it might make it better.
Art, your question.
All right, yeah, I ran because I got this too. I picked this up recently, so I'm a big fan of Jedi Bob. So for me, my favorite, like my holy grail of like Star Wars collection is I have a 1983 Revenge of the Jedi poster. Nice. And it was the one that like you flip open and talk about Star Wars and Empire, and you open it up and says now in production, Revenge of the Jedi. What's your go-to like hands down favorite Star Wars collectible that you have? And I'm guessing you have a lot, but what is your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, like now I have my own Jedi Starfighter and I can't believe it. Like the Lego stuff, I can't believe, but I think like, I wish I was in my office. I think the two things downstairs that like, I go like, that's pretty nuts. I have the Kylo Ren helmet that Adam Driver wore in the radar technician sketch, and he signed it, love you to your friend Matt. Like that is like, just because that was a fun thing into the Star. I have the giant R2D2 that we had in the other Star Wars sketch, the one where I was Boba Fett with the long hair. It was like the Guardians of the Galaxy and Star Wars. I don't even remember anymore. But I have that R2D2, and now it's signed by like J.J. Abrams, John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, and all the people that came through SNL. They would they would just come in my dressing room and sign it. So I have that in my office. Like that's just a cool thing. I think but now to answer your question, I think my Orca figure, I had an Orca figure made, and I think that might be it.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Like you had 80 minutes, right? I apologize. All my question answers are much longer than I expected.
Sky Talkers.
Hi, Bobby. I'm Caitlin, the other half of Sky Talkers. So great to talk to you today. You mentioned you'd worked with writers Dan and Benji before. What was it like working with them on this project?
It was the best. Yeah, I got asked to go to Lucasfilm and help pitch jokes for the Star Wars. I think it was the Christmas special, the Lego Christmas special, and I was just over the moon because that's a job I'm equipped for, I thought. And I met them there, and then when they were writing this, they thought of me, and I can't believe it. I'm a huge fan of theirs anyway. That Ninja Turtle movie is fantastic. The Pokemon, like they're absolute geniuses at genres of IPs that people really, really love because they care about them as well. And Benji is an AFOL. He is an adult fan of Lego. He is like, I've never met anybody like that. Like he is one of those guys that knows everything about it, and they're great, and they're really funny, and they did a bang up job on this special, and I'm really lucky that they exist.
Ethan Kerwin.
So our next question is, how did you hear about Jedi Bob, and why were you interested in it?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
How did you hear about Jedi Bob, and why were you interested in playing the character?
I had heard about him just as like a fan of collecting weird Star Wars stuff. I was like at a Walmart and saw like a miscarded figure, like it was a Luke Skywalker figure, but there was like a stormtrooper background. And I was like, what is this? I thought I found something crazy. And I started collecting weird Star Wars stuff and found out that there was this character that was just named Jedi that came out with this set, and like that people online were nicknamed him Jedi Bob, and that it had become very expensive to collect him now because not many people wanted it. And I thought that was just a fascinating story as a fan of weird collecting stuff. And then one day I got a phone call from my friends who were like, "Do you want to play this weird character that you know?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, that's exactly what I want to do."
Ryan, your question.
You talked about Mark Hamill getting to do a lot of ad lib stuff. How much did you get to do on this? And is there any jokes? Are there any jokes that you got to do in the room that didn't make it that you wish had?
Of course. Yeah, they wrote it so well that like this is I am an improviser. I love to improvise. I feel comfortable improvising, but there is nothing better for me than a job where I instantly realize I don't have to flex that muscle as much as I need to. They did such a fantastic job at writing this that I didn't need to improvise a lot. But of course, it was Star Wars. I definitely tried to shoehorn in. Every recording, I was like, well, I'm, I got a bad feeling about this or something. I just kept trying to shoehorn in myself to old Star Wars stuff, and I got a couple in. But one that I remember, I definitely improvised at one point, I think to Mark Hamill, that I was in Max Rebo's band, that I played saxophone in Max Rebo's band many years ago, and that I got kicked out for stealing. And I don't know why, I just thought that was funny. And they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to use that. We're not going to do that." And I was like, "Got it. Okay." There's a few. It's funny. You're or somebody here is from Revenge of the Sith, or no, Full of
Full of
Sith.
Sith.
Full of Sith. I think we did that joke in this. Is it still in it? Or we definitely recorded that joke and we're like, we wonder if we could get away with this. I said, "Oh, Sig, you're full of Sith," or something like that. And I thought maybe we got away with it, but maybe not.
I don't recall that. I would have noticed that one.
I feel like you would have. Yeah. That's what, when you said it, I was like, is it still in there? No, but we definitely tried it. But that was the cool thing about this whole project, was like, it was the first, I felt like it was the first time where it was like, you know what, we're gonna have fun and make fun of Star Wars a little bit and this whole universe.
Hi, Dan and Benji. This is Art Eddie from Art of Fatherhood. We were at a roundtable with the talent like Gate and Tony and Bobby, and they love working with you. They love your work, and I loved the first 4 episodes. I'm guessing everyone here did as well. How much fun and leeway did you guys have mixing up the different characters and planets and ships? And was there an easy one, and was there one that was like super hard to like get through?
I mean, luckily we didn't really have trouble getting anything through or not. Like from the jump, Lucasfilm and Lego and everyone was just so supportive with this wild idea that we had of just mashing everything up. They wanted this to be a celebration for the big 25th anniversary of Lego Star Wars, like this iconic partnership between these two awesome brands. But as part of that celebration, we really wanted to recreate the way kids, and honestly adults too, play with their Lego, which is you take the big bin, you dump it on the ground, and you just mix and match. You don't just act out the movie as it scene by scene in proper order. No, you've got timelines are all mixed up, ships are mixed up, good guys are bad guys are good. Like, that's just part of it. It's inherent to what Lego Star Wars is. And so with that in mind, it was kind of, we had free reign to, in this mashed up galaxy, do whatever we felt seemed right.
I can tell you the part that took the longest time, and I think that was the most challenging, but ultimately the most rewarding, was the actual removal of the cornerstone sequence, where we really see the galaxy get rebuilt for the first time. That was a lot of time spent figuring out, what does this look like visually. I have to give incredible props to Chris Buckley, our amazingly talented director, as well as everyone at Atomic Cartoons, who really, from the beginning, we knew that sequence had to work. Bobby Moynihan does an incredible acting performance during that sequence, and it gives me chills to watch. So As far as difficulty, I would say that was the most difficult because it had to set the tone for every single thing that occurs in the rest of the show. And if it didn't work, then the whole thing kind of the bottom dropped out. But thankfully, we really spent a lot of time on that, really spent a lot of time on the words that Bobby was saying. And ultimately, it's, to me, I think it's one of the moments where I hope people will go, oh, this show's really going for something more than I maybe anticipated that it was going for.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Art.
you.
All right, great. Next, we have Sky Talkers podcast.
Hi, Dan and Benji. It's Charlotte from Sky Talkers. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We loved Rebuild the Galaxy.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Mark Hamill was a consulting producer on the show and a voice acting legend. It was so cool to see him in the show and play this awesome version of Luke Skywalker. How did his involvement in the show come about, and what was that process like?
So, I mean, when we wrote it, like, you know, obviously that was the dream as we were writing, but we knew we weren't confident necessarily that we were going to get him because, you know, he hasn't been in certain other Lego Star Wars content in the past and things like that. And, you know, it's, but, you know, we were fortunate that his schedule allowed it this time around, but also, you know, we sent him a nice note, we sent him the scripts and just like hoped for the best. And we had a meeting with him where he was just like, you know what, I really love these scripts. You guys really get Star Wars, and this seems like a fun version of the character to play, so let's do it. And we were really, I mean, we're still pinching ourselves about it. Like, it was surreal to sit there and watch him, you know, become Luke Skywalker in front of our eyes. And you know, in terms of the consulting, like, you know, we talked through it with him. He had the reality is he knows Luke Skywalker better than we could ever write. And so, you know, he was pitching ideas and thoughts for what Luke could be doing, what other characters could be doing. And it was just super helpful to like hear stories of making those original movies and yeah, just gave us so much more insight into things. And yeah, it's surreal that it even happened.
I would also say that when you have someone like Mark involved in your Star Wars project, that energy trickles down to everyone, not only in the cast, but the crew as well, because it does feel a little bit like, oh, he thinks that there's something here that's special enough, that's interesting enough for him to come back and perform, you know, the most iconic character of all time. And we all felt really challenged to live up to that legacy and to really put our all into it. Down the line, the storyboard artist, the editor, the sound engineers, every single person, when they heard that Mark was involved, the response was universally like, oh, well, then I better bring my A game. And that's how we felt. And that's the legacy that Mark brings to something like this.
Great. Next up, we have Keith and Kawan.
Hi, Dan and Benji. This is Keith and Kerwin of Father Son Galaxy.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. We love the show. And we admire your creativity with flipping the characters, the storylines of some of our familiar characters, like making Admiral Akbar a clone trooper and Jar Jar a Dark Lord. What other characters did you have in mind to change that did not make it into the series?
We had a really funny sequence with Poe Dameron as a parking valet that kind of slows down the action when they're running toward Yesi's ship. And he kind of gets in their way and is sort of very...
Instead of the greatest pilot in the galaxy, our Poe was the greatest Parker in the galaxy. And that was a fun one. I mean, there were a lot of fun things.
That one was one that I really was sad to lose, but ultimately someone eventually had to say, guys, you can't put every character that you've ever read or seen in the show. We're cutting you off. And so unfortunately that was a hard cut, but it was such a funny sequence. And so that's one that'll live in our hearts. Maybe someday that version of Poe will reappear.
It was really nice to see like deleted scenes of all the characters that didn't make it into the show.
Yeah, I wish I mean, there was so much stuff that I wish that I could share with you. You know, our at a certain point you realize you're writing way too long, and then you gotta reel it in. You gotta reel it in, or everyone's gonna be mad at you, and so you gotta stop. So I did compare it before to a Toys R Us shopping spree. It was kind of like running down the aisles, being like this one and this one and this one and this one. And then you get to the register and you go, oh, we got too much stuff. We got too much. We did too much. We gotta dial it back. But everything that remained was the stuff that we said, we can't lose this. There's no way to lose it.
Thank you.
Great. Next up, we have Brian Young, Full of Sith.
Yeah, this is Brian with Full of Sith. One of the things I noticed, I was really blown away by how, like, this was not what I was expecting based on, like, the ads and stuff. And I was really struck by how, on the surface, it feels very much like, okay, we're rebuilding the galaxy, but it gets much more subtle and clever than that, even with, like, the structure of the story, where there's elements that of the structure, like in these 4 episodes of all of the Star Wars movies and all the major plot beats that make it into the structure that you don't always, you know, hang a lantern on. They're just happening very organically. And I'm wondering, from a writing perspective, how you approached sort of remixing the story beats that we all know so much in Star Wars in a way that work here organically without, you know, sort of pointing at it and making it so apparent. Because I think some of them, like, I was rewinding and going like, wait, did they really do that? Because they fly by so elegantly.
I think that it was really important to us to say, okay, what is a great Star Wars story? And more specifically, what is a great Lego Star Wars story? Which I think is its own tonality and its own thing, and I think allows for comedy and commentary and referential humor that is unique to Lego Star Wars. So we sort of started there. But then we said, let's break down the archetypical, powerful moments from each of those movies and each of those shows. Why do they function? What functions about them? What kinds of characters and relationships need to be present within those moments in order for it to become iconic? And so you are right that we really said, okay, you know, this moment is a little bit like that moment that's so terrific in Revenge of the Sith. So what's our version of that? What's a Lego Star Wars version of Obi-Wan and Anakin's sort of final confrontation in Revenge of the Sith? How can that now be applied to the brother dynamic of Sig and Dev? Okay, what are some of those iconic shots? What are for instance, Luke Skywalker, after they fight Darth Jar Jar in sort of that fish guts area down beneath the Mos Eisley Marina, we said, you know, this version of Luke is very different than the Luke that we're familiar with, but there's something intrinsic to the character and to the soul of Luke Skywalker that's going to make him a hero, that's going to make him leave Tatooine no matter what. And if you look on the wall, there's an architectural detail of the binary suns of Tatooine. And so that's a little bit of a nod to, there is a power in this sort of mythical storytelling that goes between these worlds and runs in parallel, even though it's not our Luke Skywalker, in quotations, it still is our Luke Skywalker in spirit, in feel, in emotion. And that was really important to us to capture those sorts of elements from throughout every piece of Star Wars content.
And we really wanted it to not just be a silly referential side of Lego Star Wars, but we wanted it to, we essentially wrote it as if we were writing just any Star Wars story, you know, like we really wanted, you know, and I think as you watch, like by the time you get to like the climax in part 4, like a lot of the comedy kind of falls away and it just sort of turns into a Star Wars story. And even me, when I'm watching it, like I sometimes forget that I'm even looking at Lego when it gets dramatic between the brothers like that. And, you know, so that's just sort of what was in our minds of just like, what is iconically Star Wars, and, you know, that fun, that wonderment. And we wanted to wed that to all the silly things that were going to happen as well.
No, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Dan Zia.
I am so glad that I followed that question because I think I have something that will kind of transition perfectly. And one of the things I love, gentlemen, by the way, Dan's Air Coffee with Kenobi, that one of the things I love about this is that, yes, it's fun, but beyond the wonder and the spectacle and the Easter eggs and the mixing and matching, there's a really beautiful story that has something to say. There's cost, there's a reflection of our culture. Talk to me about what about this story needed to be told by you two.
I think that one of the things that we've experienced in our career, we've been really fortunate to work with some of the most amazing franchises that exist. Pokemon, Ninja Turtles, Addams Family. It's been really, we're so fortunate. But one of the things that we have occasionally talked about is, what are the points of departure? What are the points, how far can you go in changing something that everyone is familiar with? And what is the power of that? And what is the downside of that? And what we ultimately settled on is that if you can identify something sort of spiritually or philosophically as feeling true to the thing that you love, then I think that people are willing to go with that and accept something that's a little bit different. And I think that that directly relates to the idea of how we play. We got to play in sort of a metaphorical sense with all of the Star Wars galaxy. But in a more literal sense, some kids play with their Lego by wanting to build everything perfectly and leave them constructed. Some people love to build Lego and then smash them and build them a completely different way. And what we were trying to pull out is that there isn't really a right answer to that question. That all of the ways that we play, both with Lego, with characters and worlds that we love, that there's value and worth to that, and that we should embrace this spirit of play, embrace this spirit of newness, and also acknowledge, and I think that this is something that I find moving, and I hope that like my kids will take away from this. You can't always control the things that are going to happen to you. And that's one of the reasons we felt like it was really important not to reset the galaxy at the end of the special. This is a thing that happened. You can't go back. We think for a moment that you can, and ultimately it turns out you can't. But what you can do is continue to move forward in your life and find friends and relationships and people that you love that can help you rebuild your life and in this case, rebuild the galaxy. And I think that that's a powerful message, which is unexpected things happen all the time, but we have the ability to adapt and respond and become comfortable.
And that's something that's like very unique to Lego, like the themes of Lego, which is like, you know, if you have a different toy or a fancy model of something and it breaks, then it's broken and like there's no going back. But with Lego, you can, anytime Lego breaks, it can be rebuilt. And you can always rebuild it. You can make it better. You can make it different. You can make it exactly the same as it was. It's up to you. It's every person playing with those Lego sort of can choose their own path, and that's exactly what we wanted SIG to be going through.
All right, great. Next up, we have Gustavo.
Hi guys, Gustavo from Trial of the Force. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I guess I'm gonna just keep this through line that we've been talking about, because my question is in a way about SIG, fandom and storytelling in general. Because when we look at SIG at the beginning of the special, he's very much the opposite of Luke, where Luke is looking into the sunset, wanting to make his new adventures and, you know, for travel outside of Tatooine. SIG wants to stay in his planet and just retell the same old stories and kind of stay in that safe place. And for me, it was very interesting to just watch how then this special was developing, because as we like kind of see where the media landscape is nowadays with this cycle of nostalgia where media kind of wants to tell the same stories, and a lot of fans also want the same safe stories, this special was interesting in the sense of challenging that notion of like sometimes you can have a new story within the same world. So I guess my question to you guys is, what is the value in reinterpreting like these stories and telling new stories within this world, especially like in, you know, this this cycle of nostalgia that we're living in right now?
I think you really have identified something that we very much talked a lot about when we set out to remix and rebuild the Star Wars galaxy. And I think the beauty of Star Wars is that there's a place for any story that you can conceptualize. Any character that you can imagine is somewhere out there in a galaxy far, far away. I think that in the character of Sig, he's very much based on the two of us in the sense that we studied those Star Wars encyclopedias. We sat there with those books. I listened. Gosh, I actually got in trouble in 4th grade because my teacher called my mom in to say, Dan's only reading Star Wars books at like reading break time. And my mom, to her great credit, said, at least he's reading. And now, being in my own profession, I'm even more grateful to my mom because I've made it my life. And I think the power of these stories is the power of language, it's the power of vocabulary, and ultimately it's the power of communication. That I can go somewhere around the world, I can go to Japan, or I can go to Egypt, or I can go to Denmark, and I can talk to someone about General Grievous and what a funny character that guy is. But at the same time, I think that we as fans, when you live in this space long enough, you do seek out new stories, new iterations, new flavors, nuance, differences. And what we found with this special is that we actually had the perfect delivery system to explore what it means to tell a new story, what it means to think that you know everything and to find you don't know anything. And I felt that if you did it in such a way that was respectful to the source material and because which we love and would never disrespect, we felt like people would come along for that ride and go, it's not what I expected to see, but it worked. It worked and it felt like its own thing, but it also felt like Star Wars and it also felt like Lego. And I think that that's the power of what we set out to achieve. And I hope people feel like we achieved it in some small measure.
Thank you.
All right. So unfortunately, we only have time for one more question. So go ahead, Victor.
Dan and Benji, thank you very much for your time today. It's funny how you mentioned the dropping the bag of Legos. The 2nd grade class that I work with, when they have their free day, that's the first thing they do. They grab the bag, drop it, and they all just start building different things every time that I've been in the classroom. But my question for you is, we've seen a lot of, I asked this earlier to Tony again, so I wanted to ask you too. We see a lot of familiar vehicles and familiar characters in Rebuild the Galaxy, but if you two had the chance to rebuild any Star Wars vehicle from the galaxy for yourselves, which vehicles would you choose to rebuild and to remix?
Oh man, I mean, I think a lot of our favorites we put into the show. Like I think my personal favorite is the sandcrawler with the AT-AT legs. That was, I just had an image of that in my mind, and then the animators and designers did an amazing job making that happen. I would love to ride down the freeway with one of those.
For me, it was the Ewok bounty hunter ships. I love the organic components on the Y-Wing. It was a pet idea that we had for a long time about what if an Ewok really did figure out how to fly. And I'm really so thrilled with the job that Chris Buckley and everyone at Atomic Cartoons did bringing that to life. I feel bad that some people didn't get to ask a question, so maybe we could do like a lightning round for the people that didn't get to ask a question, and we could maybe answer like a short question.
Thank you.
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Make it really quick, guys.
Really quick.
All right.
James
So, go James and then Alex.
Yeah, James from Jedi News here. I just want to say, as a Lego ambassador for over 10 years, you've done an absolutely fantastic job and you've brought these characters to life, and the story is really, really captivating. And obviously, it's got a great lesson for all of us as well. I just wanted to know about the actual 3 sets that have come out. How involved were you in choosing those 3 sets? Because there are so many that could have been chosen. I want that flying land speeder, please. And do you think we'll get any more of those?
I mean, I'm a hardcore Lego nerd, and it was a dream come true to be involved with the sets. Like, yeah, we were at the ground floor of like, meeting with the designers and talking about what was in the show and what sets could possibly be. It was very hard to pick what the three would be. But yeah, like it's been a dream, and I hope we can do more. Because yeah, I always dreamt that I would get Lego sets made out of something I wrote, but I never thought I would be directly involved with the Lego sets like I am on this. And so it's very surreal.
All right, lightning round.
Okay, last one.
Hi, Alex from Star Wars Explained. In addition to Mark Hamill, you had so many returning cast members: Sam Witwer, Phil Damar, Kelly Marie Tran, Ahmed Best, Naomi Aki. So most of them are playing against their character's original type. Do you have any fun stories from the recording booth as these actors settled into new versions of familiar characters?
I think that every single one of them was up for the challenge. I think, seeing Ahmed come into the booth and we go, so do you want to talk about, what Darth Jar Jar might sound like? And him going, oh, I think it's going to sound like this. And just going, oh, of course. Yes, that is how Darth Jar Jar sounds. Or the same thing with Darth Rose Tico. Kelly Marie Tran is talented in a way that I can barely describe. And so I think that all of these actors came in with a real sense of fun and exploration, and it was a marvel to watch.
So yeah, that was just a great batch of interviews. Had a lot of fun with all the folks, the usual suspects from these sorts of things, and really enjoyed Rebuild the Galaxy. I know there's a lot of tension out there in Star Wars land as far as fandom goes, with the sorts of people who get the chance to do these, and there's sort of this attitude that the people who get to do these are those that just sort of enjoy everything, but I don't necessarily think that's the case, and I think Rebuild the Galaxy is the sort of breath of fresh air that a lot of folks need right now, and it's just fun. If you can't watch it and take it for what it is, there's always something else in Star Wars for you. So, find that other thing for you. But this is great. Like I said, it's on Disney Plus. Check it out now. As for me, you can find me online everywhere at Swankmatron or swankmatron.com. My latest set of Star Wars cards that I wrote, the Topps Chrome 2024 set, I'm told that they're available at Costco now in special sort of boxes. I'm going to have to go catch some of those myself, which is really interesting. And I've got a brand new short story in the latest issue of Shrapnel, the new Battletech magazine, and a new story actually in, if anyone was interested in Remo Williams, the 80s movie, which was based on a book series called The Destroyer. I've got a new novella coming out in November about that, so that's a lot of fun. As far as Full of Sith, you can go to fullofsith.com, listen to the entire back catalog of episodes, or send us an email at holocron@fullofsith.com. And we'd love to hear from you, so rate, review the show wherever it is you listen to it. So for super producer Mike Pilot, for Holly Fry, I'm Brian Young, and the Force will be with you, always.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.